Get ready to be stranded on an island as you collect supplies, fight pirate ghosts, and live on the healthy Irish diet of potatoes and nothing but potatoes. After all, who doesn't like a spud? Greetings everyone, Pat Kearley here from the Republic of Players, and today we are going to be looking at Stranded Sails, Explorers of the Cursed Islands. An open world adventure where you scavenge islands and fight some cursed pirates, but on your downtime you'll be farming. So, without further ado, let's get straight into the review and see if Stranded Sails is worth getting. The story of Stranded Sails starts off with you leaving the city, heading north towards new islands to a colder climate. However, while at sea you end up in a storm with your crew and are shipwrecked upon a handful of islands, and it's up to you to find all of the crew you went with on the journey with. From the solitary loving handyman to One Punch Man's great granddaddy. Once you find them, it's time to build a safe camp for them to reside at before trying to leave the islands by breaking a curse brought on by pirates. The story itself is rather simple in the overall scheme of things, however I feel the simplistic story works to its advantage on the basis that the game's main experience comes from the gameplay. There is a multitude of things you do in Stranded Sails, and with each activity a very relaxing vibe is one of the most consistent feelings you'll experience throughout the game. Whether it be from traversing the calm and rough waters to growing crops or trying to catch fish with your rod, it's honestly very tranquil. I spent most of my time doing these side activities rather than going and doing the story. Farming was my favourite aspect out of everything. I enjoyed planting my crops, watering them and watching them grow. It made me actually want to go out and grow stuff of my own.
Why can I only grow grass?
Continuing on from the farming, once you harvest your goods, you'll be able to make meals with them along with other food items you gather like fish to create a large variety of meals. The more ingredients you acquire, the more options that become available, with certain dishes giving you ability boosters, from better defense and attack. Food will keep your character going as you have an energy bar right above your head that indicates when you will pass out. When you pass out, you return to your sleeping quarters and you don't lose anything. I felt this was too fair of a mechanic. Without any real consequence of passing out, there's no real reason to avoid it. But let's get back to the food. There was a lot more options than what I was expecting from the game to creating food. So much so that I found it to be a bit on the tedious side, especially when you had to discover each recipe through putting multiple ingredients together until you guessed right. And while it does show which ingredient is right, simply going through them all to find one or two can really suck the fun out of it. Wait a minute, you can make a Krabby Patty. Yes! Come to Papa! You can make stews in this game that also raise your crew's level. You give them any of your ingredients to make a stew and gain those levels. It is one of the more important aspects in my eyes, as with new levels you can get new gear from your crew to make life easier in a lot of ways, as well as allowing you to build extra farmland or a new fishing area at your camp. While building anything requires resources, such as cutting down trees for wood and exploring other islands for scraps of metal or rope. Watching the camp evolve over time is rather satisfying and gives you a sense of progression as small details will be added with each level you gain with your crew. The simplistic way that all the mentioned gameplay so far is done works swimmingly. However, the simplistic style carries over to the combat, which in my opinion is detrimental to it. The combat is flat. You run or walk around to avoid being hit by the pirate ghosts and then move towards them to attack. I feel something like a block button or perhaps a way to lock onto certain enemies would have made it so that you could have a little variety when you fight. With how plain it actually is, it grew boring quickly and I wasn't thrilled when missions involving it were next on the list to do. There is an optional mode where you fight waves of enemies, and while it is a great way to round up items without having to go exploring, With how stale combat is, I simply didn't want to go near it after I did it once. The combat is by no means bad, it's just not as gripping as the other activities that are available for you to do. The game has a charming art style to it. It reminded me of the good old days of the PlayStation 1 with its polygon aesthetic. The world is colourful and is fun to explore. There are collectibles to be found that build the lore of the world. The visuals make everything exceptionally clear so you can tell what crates you can get loot from or see where bridges, ladders or climbing rope can be made. The music simply does its job. It helps create the atmosphere of the area you are currently in. There's nothing really that stands out with the music, but when accompanied by the game's visuals, it works. Plain and simple. The only major issue that occurred quite often would be an unsteady frame rate. Apart from that, the game ran smoothly all the way through. So, overall the game was a fun, relaxing experience. It's a good game. The farming, fishing, cooking, collecting materials and building up your camp and crew level can be a calming and enjoyable experience to watch unfold. However, it falls short in having no consequences with your energy meter and the combat being too simplistic, to the point of it wearing thin pretty quickly. The game is not a must-buy in my opinion. However, if you're looking for something different in between the larger titles that are coming out, this might just be a game to take a change of pace with. Stranded Sails Explorers of the Cursed Islands gets a recommendation of buy. Special thanks to Merge Games and Lemon Bomb Entertainment for sending out a review copy for us to review. If you enjoyed this review, why not check out some of our stuff? We have a podcast, first looks, and more reviews. If you're interested in talking with a group of like-minded gamers, why not pop on over to our Facebook community and join in on the fun? It's a bit of crack. That's all from me today. Until next time, have a good one.